Dear laureates, ladies and gentlemen, I feel very, very honored to have been asked to say a few words as an introduction to the speech that Kasia Jacqueline Hagera will give in a few minutes. As the president founder of the Right Livelihood Award mentioned earlier, Sweden can be proud, justly proud of its pioneering work in advancing the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, the LGBT people. I do hope that what we have done in Sweden over the years can be support to the fight LGBT people in other countries have in order to gain their human rights, to live openly together with their loved ones. A short part of the Swedish history. In 1944, Sweden no longer considered homosexuality as a criminal offense. In 1972, we were the first country in the world to legally recognize the right of individuals to undergo sex change. In 1979, I got the possibility to erase homosexuality from the list of mental diseases. And then a few years later, in 1994, partnership for individuals of the same sex was legalized by Parliament. It was replaced by marriage for people of the same sex in 2009. In 2003, LGBT people were allowed to adopt children in this country. Sadly enough, there are no children to adopt, but because we adopt children from other countries which don't recognize homosexuality. And a couple of years later, lesbian women were allowed to be parents via insemination. And one important thing was in 1999, when we got the anti-discrimination legislation in order to protect the human rights of LGBT people. And this legislation has been strengthened and widened over the years. But here in Sweden, we are very, very conscious that what we take for granted here now, the right of individuals to make their sexual, reproductive, and gender choices is literally a matter of life and death in many other countries. In 5 countries, and in part of 2 others today, being gay causes a death penalty. And in another 70, LGBT people can face imprisonment. That is very, very sad. And in Uganda, where the 2015 Right Livelihood Award laureate, Kasia Jacqueline Hagera comes from, being openly gay is sometimes tantamount to a death sentence. It's a very, very severe situation in Uganda, and it needs a lot of courage and commitment to be open about homosexuality there. So today, as Swedish parliamentarians, we salute Kasia's courage and commitment. We call for equal rights for LGBT people around the world. We urge respect for our right as individuals to be who we are and without fear of any persecution. We will now see a short film introducing Kasia. Please.
She is one of the most courageous and outspoken human rights activists in Africa. She fights for the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people in Uganda and elsewhere. Her goal is a world where no one is persecuted, threatened, hurt, or killed because of his or her sexual orientation. Kasia Jacqueline Nabagasera, Uganda.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kasia Jacqueline Nabagasera to the rostrum and to give your speech. Please come up here.
Your Excellencies, Members of Parliament, fellow laureates, ladies and gentlemen, and my partner in audience. The celebrated Nigerian novelist Chinua Achebe once said that we cannot trample upon humanity of others without devaluing our own. I believe in the possibility of a world where we can see ourselves and each other as simply human beings. A world where we respect and understand each other, where we work together to break structures that hinder our personal freedoms and rights to live happy, peaceful, and sustainable lives. We still have a long way to go before we can get this world that we desire. Lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and queer persons in many parts of the world continue to be confronted with threats, intimidation, and discrimination. And activists working to promote respect for human rights seem to be confronted with constant shrinking spaces. What we do as a people in such situations? As individuals and as a society, we all share the same desire to live peacefully and be fundamentally free. It's the time to refrain and adhere to our basic character and uphold the essence of all international instruments that were drawn up with the intention of reminding us of how we are supposed to peacefully coexist as human beings. In our individual capacities, we have a duty to live and let live, and we must boldly confront oppression in all its manifestations. This is what my colleagues and I have tried to do in Uganda. It is the reason why I founded Freedom and Roam Uganda in 2003, to counter homophobia in my country and sensitize our people on the issues of sexual orientation and gender identity. Our campaigns use different mediums to touch every segment of society. For example, in 2011, the Hate No More campaign reached out to the mass media in Uganda with the aim of eliminating misconceptions and shattering myths about same-sex relationships. The Break the Chain campaign used newsletters served to underneath the real-life experiences of LGBT persons in Uganda. After stepping down as the head of Farouk just last year in 2014, I launched Kuchu Times, a media platform that uses television, radio, internet, and print material to inform people on LGBT issues. Within this platform lies the Bombastic magazine, which I named after my nickname, launched in 2014 and funded through crowdsourcing on the internet, which shares accounts of lives of LGBT Ugandans. This magazine aims to convey a simple truth, that we all are more similar than we are different. Bombastic has been downloaded more than 2 million times in less than a year. Believing fervently that public spaces should be enjoyed by all, we continue to organize the Pride Uganda Festival every year, to reaffirm the simple message enshrined in Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. As individual efforts to promote respect for human rights and make it reality for all can never be enough, our support and solidarity to our cause is welcome. In Uganda, over time, we have managed to strengthen our visibility as LGBT persons, hoping to create a safe space for everyone. The challenges are still prevalent, but we have come too far to give up. At a continental level, our fight has seen a growing trend of people organizing and rising up against the suppressing hand of authorities. This is the trend we all can hope will remain unextinguished until there is acknowledgement of all human rights as indivisible, interdependent, and inalienable. From LGBT rights to all other sexual, reproductive, and health rights, from the rights of migrants and refugees, and all other rights. Throughout my life, and in spite of all the violence and threats that I have been subjected to, I have never shied away from using the rule of law and the judiciary to hold human rights violators to account and give a measure of redress to victims. Court verdicts have been helpful in making inroads within public opinion and slowly entrench the notion that LGBT people also have inviolable rights guaranteed by the Uganda Constitution. Yet, time and experience has proven to me that more allies we bring into our struggle and the greater strength of numbers we can mobilize, the closer we move towards the awakening of people's consciousness required to bring about lasting and tangible change. To this end, I have engaged in a number of coalitions to advance and realize human rights in Uganda, including the women's movement, the Coalition of African Lesbians, the Civil Society Coalition on Human Rights and Constitutional Law, which includes more than 60 Uganda human rights organizations. Last year, I joined 9 brave fellow petitioners to challenge the Anti-Homosexuality Act passed in February 2014, which imposed further sanctions to criminalize homosexuality and trample upon LGBT rights. Our petition saw this law being annulled by the Constitutional Court of Uganda in August 2014 on a technicality. But even though the specter of the draconian and unjust law being reintroduced continues to hang over us, I'm confident from our experience that my colleagues and I are ready to meet the challenge. In the meantime, I continue to build alliances and broaden our movement for justice for all. I'm presently working with HIV/AIDS survivors, victims, and those affected women's groups to challenge provisions in the HIV/AIDS Control and Prevention Act 2014 that stigmatizes also the LGBT community. Believing that our struggle is global in scope, I work at the international level with the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, at the regional level with the African Commission on Human and People's Rights in the Gambia, and nationally with government ministries. Martin Luther King said that faith is about taking the first step, even when you cannot see the whole staircase. And that is the only, it's the only darkness that we see the stars. My friends, history shows us that seemingly unsurmountable challenges to equality, the institution of slavery, the denial of women's suffrage, colonial rule and apartheid have been contested, challenged, and repudiated. I believe that through court judgments, through advocacy, and through sensitizing our people on the full meaning of fundamental human rights, we shall overcome, and that the day is not far when discrimination against people based on who they love will also be left behind in the wastebasket of history. I want you to know that this award gives courage, strength, and vindication to all Ugandans working for universal human rights against all odds. I humbly accept it on behalf of all those who have given their life for the cause of advancing LGBT rights in Uganda and around the world, particularly my friend and colleague David Kato, who was murdered in 2011 while working for a better world for all of us. The change we seek can only be achieved through tolerance, understanding, a shift in minds, and breaking all barriers to equality. I invite you all to join me and be better for this change. Thank you.